Click play and call it work.
Hey everybody, Matthew here from MiniWarGaming.com, and welcome to this week's live sit and talk. Hopefully everything's working. Is everything working? How do I sound? How do I look? Just careful how you answer that. But yes, I will be your host this week for the sit and talk, where I'll answer all of your questions, or at least some of your questions, a few of your questions, many of your questions. It all depends on how many questions there are to answer. Everybody says it sounds good, so we're just going to dive right into it. Now, there's a couple items of business I want to cover first. I want to talk a bit about some of the feedback we've been getting for the live shows in general, and also talk about this show, the Sit and Talk. I want to clarify a few things that I think are not very clear, and it's probably our fault. First off, some people have not liked the fact that they can no longer ask questions on the Sit and Talk unless they are live. I just want to remind you that our Vault members, bronze or silver, are able to submit questions beforehand. The way that you do that is by leaving a comment on the previous week's Sit and Talk. So for example, next week is Josh, if the schedule hasn't changed, and so I'm hoping that it is Josh. And so if you want to leave a question for Josh and you are a Vault member, bronze or silver, then when this video goes up on YouTube on roughly Saturday, then not on YouTube but on our website, because that way we can track whether you're a bronze or silver or a Vault member at all, you can leave a comment there for Josh. And then what happens is on the live show, I spend roughly half the time answering Vault member questions and the other half of the time answering live chat. And that way Vault members don't lose any of the benefits from before, because I did like that benefit where they got a specific half-an-hour segment dedicated to them. Now, I probably won't dedicate half an hour today just because there aren't that many, which is what leads me to believe that people don't realize they can do that. And so I'm not just going to announce it here. We'll make sure we put it on Facebook and Twitter and all the other places too, so everybody understands how it does work. Also, some people have been complaining, understandably, about the jerky frame rate, maybe audio issues that we've been having. We're still new at this aspect. We've been filming battle reports and making videos for over a decade, but live streaming is a totally different beast. It requires a whole different set of skills as well as equipment, and so we're still figuring that out. Literally, even today, still figuring that out. It'll probably take weeks, maybe even months before we've mastered it. Even if you can say such a thing as mastered it, we'll always be learning new ways to do it. And so, so we are going to do our best to make sure that the frame rate doesn't drop, that the audio sounds nice and clear, and all of that kind of stuff. So just going to put that out there. So if you are currently on the live Sit and Talk stream, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the queue so that you can start asking questions. And the way that you can do that is by going !ask and then space, and then put your question in. And that'll pop up in my queue. I'm also keeping an eye on the actual chat as well, and just so I can make sure to catch the conversations and everything that's going on. And I printed off all of the previous week's Vault member questions that were put on the last one. And to answer the question, who's on the MiniWarGaming account, although I know Colin's probably going to reply, it's Colin who is on there. He's always the man in the background, making sure things are running as smoothly as possible so that I can just focus on answering your questions. And so I'm going to just leave that there. So I saw somebody put up the ask thing earlier, but you need to do it again because I hadn't opened the queue yet. I should have just opened it when we started the show, but so make sure you ask your questions. So !ask, space, and your question, and then we'll get to those. So without further ado, let's just jump right into some of the questions. I'll start with some of the Vault member questions to allow our live streamers some time to input their questions. And don't worry, if you're watching this later in the stream, I'm going to be picking questions randomly. So you don't have to worry about, oh, there's already 20 questions before me, he'll never get to mine, so I'm not going to bother to put in a question. No, just put in your questions, and we'll get to that. Boston says, a question for Matt. When will there be more Kill Team content? I'd love a Kill Team campaign. We don't have any current plans to get more Kill Team content done. We were about to do a Kill Team campaign. I had actually even created a custom campaign for it, but we've been very busy and trying to keep up with everything else that we're doing. This was before we even implemented live streaming, which has added a bit of a workload as well. But it was just, with all the other narrative campaigns that we were trying to get done, we were trying to get another Deathwatch season going, which should be coming out soon. We were trying to get Yagvir and Tor really going, so we had those narrative campaigns going. It just was a little bit of a crunch. And so, and especially it seems that with the holidays coming up, there's going to be a bit of a lack, there's going to be some holes in our content schedule during the holidays just because of all of that as well. Just more time is off and all those kind of things. So I want to do Kill Team content, and Dave is planning on doing live Kill Team eventually, whenever that finally gets off the ground. We've been working on getting the equipment in place. I don't think he's planning on getting it done until the new year, to be honest. But yeah, it's been hard to keep up, to be honest, with everything that's going on, and yeah, just with 40K and Age of Sigmar, it's very, very busy. And then we have another question about Kill Team. Curtis the Word asks, at the end of the Kill Team campaign, you and Dave were talking about a few changes you would make to the campaign system. What were they? And are we going to see a campaign with it? I really love Kill Team, but the campaign system is not interesting. Most of the time, your idea make campaigns better. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you. I actually wrote one already. I haven't published the rules for it because we hadn't played it yet, so I was going to be like streamline it a little bit and then have it all ready. But the main thing would be to completely scrap the current Kill Team campaign, because the one that they have in there is meant just to be this easy throwdown. You pick up games with your friends and not worry too much about all the details of it. And that is great for just real casual play, but it sucks for people who really want to get into a nitty-gritty campaign. And so the one I wrote is a few pages long, and it incorporates things like earning points that you can use to add to your kill team. So rather than it being like, okay, each of you bring a 100-point kill team, that's how everybody starts. Everybody starts with a 100-point kill team, but you can earn credits that you can use to add to your kill team. Whereas the current kill team campaign, it's like your kill team roster can have 10,000 points of guys on it, but you can only bring 100 points of them to the game. And so it kind of ruins a bit of the immersion for things like, oh, if a guy dies, well, no problem, I can just replace him with an identical looking guy. It does suck if he's upgraded, because you lose some of the upgrades, but even part of the fire teams, as long as you bring another one with them, they can learn just after one game exactly what the rest of the fire team knows. And that's fine for quick and dirty kind of campaigns, but it loses the sense of progress. Like whenever I played like the Gorkamorka or Necromunda campaigns, it was more than just who won the game. Who won the game was almost a secondary thing. I remember playing the Gorkamorka campaign, and who won the game made a difference, but it was more how much damage did you take through the game was important. And so you could have one person win, but both sides have taken such huge casualties that person's win puts them behind somebody else who actually lost in their other game. I played a few games in Gorkamorka where I won or lost, but there was hardly any casualties on the other side. And so both players just kind of got more loot and more teeth in the case of Gorkamorka, and we both got to upgrade. I got a bit more because I had won, or my opponent got a bit more because he won. But in the end, we were way better off than, say, another game that between Dave and somebody else, where Dave won, but it cost him a lot of his team. And so I like that. I like the persistentness. It does skew games, which is why I also, in the one that I wrote in a underdog system, much like Gorkamorka has, where you look at the points difference of what you're able to bring, and with those points difference, you can buy advantages, basically. And so it actually gives the underdog some really good bonuses to make up for the fact that they have far less points value than the other person. The upgrade system also would change to, I liked their little skill tree, but I had it so that you could also upgrade stats, like weapon skill, ballistic skill, strength, toughness, all those kind of things. Because I find that that's almost more interesting than the stats. The stats create interesting flavor, but when you all of a sudden upgrade one guy's ballistic skill, then he has a 2+ ballistic skill or a 3+ ballistic skill. It makes a big difference for how you decide to do stuff. Being able to swap around gear, purchase new gear, sell gear, all that is important as well. So yeah, a lot of those things it basically rewrites the whole campaign system, incorporates elements of Gorkamorka and Necromunda, but simpler than how complex those ones are. But and will it be balanced? Absolutely not. Necromunda, Gorkamorka, those games are anything but balanced. because it can get out of hand really quickly. But I think in this case, it would be more fun. Okay, I'm going to answer a few questions on the live stream. Okay. Oh, and we got Now Snow just subscribed with his Twitch Prime. Thank you, Now Snow. You are awesome. And we got Falolia, or is it Pahalolia? Pahalolia. It's almost Christmas. Is also subscribed to Twitch Prime. You are awesome. Falolia or Pahalolia. Not quite sure how you're supposed to say that. I'm sure it's Falolia. So thank you very much. Okay, so let's answer a few questions right here. Kakstan asked, do you intend to run another 40K role-playing game like Wrath and Glory or one of the others? Yes, I've actually announced that a few times. No offense, not everybody's going to hear every announcement. But we do plan in the new year on doing Wrath and Glory, the 40K narrative, and when it does come out, the Age of Sigmar one as well. I really hope the role-playing thing takes off because I want it to become another big part of what MiniWarGaming does, and I want to put a lot more resources into that as well. Not at the expense of the miniature wargaming stuff, I hope, but more added on to it. So yes, I do intend to do such. Squealy Pigs, who is your favorite Primarch? Well, Vulcan, obviously. I'm a big Salamanders fan. So Vulcan definitely would be up there. In fact, he's probably my most favorite one. I've seen him written in some of the lore as well. I just find him interesting. DGH2121. Other channels have recently started commenting that 8th edition is starting to suffer the same rules bloat as was the problem with 7th. Do you have any thoughts? I think any gaming system becomes more and more bloated the longer it's out. That's just kind of... I don't know if that's avoidable. In order for a company like Games Workshop to continue making money, they have to keep making new things. And those two new things are new miniatures and new rules set. And I'm sure their numbers show them that when they release a new codex, or update a codex, I should say, or update an army book, that they see a spike in sales of the miniatures from that book. So, so obviously that's why you see things like Stormcast Eternals getting more than one update, while another one gets none, and another one only gets one. Like Stormcast Eternals get an update, and then some others get one, and then Stormcast Eternals, and everybody's like, well, wait, what about all these? And Games Workshop is like, well, a lot of people bought the Stormcast Eternals, so it makes sense for us to update, add new lines of miniatures for them. Now, that's not as big a deal for bloat, because if you're just replacing one book with another, but over time, supplements are interesting. I think supplements are interesting. I enjoy them, and I'm glad that they come out with them. The hard thing is, for Warhammer 40K, they don't have one place to put them all together like Age of Sigmar does. Age of Sigmar has an awesome app that you can use that is dirt cheap to use. You can use the army builder on it for like $1 something a month, so it's ridiculously cheap. You do still have to, if you want to use certain things in it, you have to buy the codexes inside of it. So there is that cost if you've already bought the physical or you've already bought the iBook or ebook somewhere else. But the nice thing about it is if you can just dedicate yourself just to buying stuff in that app, then you don't have to remember what all the sources are. All the rules are right there for you. And I really like that, even though technically the rules are in more than one place. 40K doesn't really have that, and that's the problem. I remember in 7th edition playing Tyranids, and when I would play a game, sometimes I needed 4 or 5 books to get all my different formations and all that stuff in. It would be nice if after they publish a few books that they publish a compendium of sorts where it's one Tyranid book that includes all the stuff from those previous books. Kind of like what I think they either have they announced that they're doing that for Necromunda, like they did like Gang War 1, Gang War 2, Gang War 3, and now they're doing the new Necromunda book, which just kind of contains all of those. So they released the rules piecemeal and then all that together at once, which I know annoys some people, but it's probably good for business to, rather than dump a huge rule set all at once, is to slowly add more to it. But yeah, so I think you're always going to run into that problem with any edition of any type of game, that the longer it's out, the more books come out. Like I've been playing D&D, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and when it first came out, there was one player's handbook, one Dungeon Master Guide, and one monster manual. and their starter kit, right? And then they come out with the campaigns. I don't consider those really adding much bloat. Some of the campaigns, they add like an extra background here or there, but nothing too major. But then they come out with Xanathar's Guide to Everything, which all of a sudden adds on way more options for your classes. They come out with the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, and they come out with Volo's Guide to Monsters. And each of these has new player options as well as options for the DM. And so it is, they've come out with so many books that for their own Adventurers League, which is how you can go into some stores and just play D&D as almost a pickup thing, just to joining in any group. They have a rule that as a player, you can only have a Player's Handbook +1, which is you have your Player's Handbook +1 extra book. So they don't want you building your character for the Adventurers League from 4 different books, even though it's really easy to do so. Because they realize that gets really complicated, and it's hard for the DM to keep up, it's hard for you to keep up with all your rules, but it's still there. So I think it's unavoidable that that's just going to happen. And so it's just something you have to deal with. And then when a new edition comes out, then it's like, oh yeah, it's all simple again. It's like, well, no, it's not all simple, it's just less of it, which I guess is the definition of simple. So yes, it is simpler, but not because that's what they want, but because it's just a new edition. Give it time and it bloats up again. I just think it's unavoidable, is really what I'm trying to say. Let's ask another question here. GeoFits. Hello, GeoFits. See you often on the streams. Hey, Matt. Just wanted to say that I appreciate that you're never satisfied with where MiniWarGaming is at, and are always pushing to make it bigger and better. Keep it up, and happy wargaming. Well, thank you. That is true. It's both a character flaw, and I think it's also a good thing as an entrepreneur. The flaw being that it's, things, even when things are going really, really, really well, I still get like this anxiety of, yes, but what happens once that plateaus? Like, how do we keep up? How do we keep ahead? How do we differentiate ourselves? I guess is the problem. And so that's just always a name of the game right here. Zergalurgadurg. Zergalurgadurg. Hey, I said it right. Zergalurgadurg. Hey, Matt, if you could make a new Iron Jaws unit, what would it be? And what fun stuff could it do? I think Iron Jaws specifically, so not just orcs in general. Iron Jaws are your armored orcs, essentially, for those of you not familiar with Age of Sigmar. Well, they've already got the basic Ardboi, and then they got the Brutes, which are basically the bigger versions, and they've got the War Boss. You know what I would do? I guess this, you said unit, but this is by rules as written would be a unit. I would put a Mega Boss on a Gore-Grunta, and I'd have him buff other Gore-Gruntas. Not just so they could actually be useful, because there's a million ways to do that, or just drop their points cost. But just because I think it would be cool to see a big Mega Boss riding a Gore-Grunta, because we got a Mega Boss on foot, and then we got one on the Maw Crusher, which is basically a dragon. And there's nothing in between. Whereas look at the Stormcast Eternals, which always have more stuff, and that's fine. You got like the Lord Selson on foot, you get one on a Dracoth, and then you get one on the Star Drake, or you get like the million different mount options for the Lord Arcanums, for example. And so I think that would be the first thing that comes to mind. But if you're talking about non-hero unit, like if you mean unit like a group of people or a group of things, I don't know. Maybe give them a ranged unit of sorts. Maybe even if it's just like spear throwers, where they're still good in close combat, like they have range, but they can also like huck these huge javelins. That could be interesting to give them some range capabilities. So that's the first thing that comes to mind for that. But I haven't put much thought into that, so it's hard to say. Griff2K9, Matt, how come you haven't shown any love to the snowy ogres in the Beastclaw Allegiance with your destruction armies? I don't think you used them in Firestorm. Maybe once. 2 reasons. One, Josh played them a lot, and people kind of got, at least certain people in the comment section got tired of them. And 2, because we only really have one Beastclaw army. It doesn't have any variety to it. If I were to play Beastclaws, I'd want to play with a lot more Yetis and a lot more Frost Sabers, but we don't have very many of those, so I need to get those added. But it'll just take some time, and we've been adding so many other miniatures to other armies that this one just isn't a high priority. But I would like to play them. I am interested. I'm just not interested in playing super elite lists all the time. And honestly, the Beastclaw Raiders, if I brought them, there'd be 1 or 2 ways to play them, and then I'd be bored of them. So I wanted to focus on things that we hadn't been showing, like Iron Jaws, Moonclan Grots, that kind of stuff. Even the Spider-Fang Grots we hadn't shown off in a little while. We've got a couple new subscribers. Iotaka subscribed to Twitch Prime. Thank you, Iotaka. You are awesome. And there was one more. Dead-Eye Duck subscribed to Twitch Prime as well. Thank you, Dead-Eye Duck. I love usernames. Aren't usernames the best thing ever? Just get to appear into people's souls. Like really. All right. Let's see if we can do another one of these. Olaf Slayer 29. You going to have Blood Bowl Season 3? No current plans, but I'm assuming it would eventually happen. Let's jump over and answer a couple of Vault members' questions. Big Mikey, Matt, what are you most excited for, hoping for, in chapter approved? Got it right here. I haven't had a chance to look through it yet. It's been a busy past little while. But my actually thing that I was most excited for was Sisters of Battle, the Adeptus Sororitas, getting their beta codex. I look forward to actually playing that, and I plan on playing that a bunch in our regular 40k battle reports. So that was the thing I'm most looking forward to. I couldn't care less about all the points adjustments. The new missions could be interesting. I don't know. I haven't really been playing much of the match play stuff, so points adjustments don't matter to me. I'm more a casual narrative kind of player. I'm not going to say I'm not competitive. Of course I'm competitive, but I appreciate more just the nonsense in the game than taking it too seriously. So when Chapter Approved comes out with new content like the Sisters of Battle Codex, that's what I'm excited for. Keep on being awesome. Have a good Christmas, holidays. Thank you, Big Mikey. Gus Boss, hi Matthew. Which of your past narrative campaigns would you say are essential viewing to get up to speed with the MiniWarGaming cinematic universe for any newer viewers like me who, alas, don't have time to watch all of them? That's tough because we don't have like this one storyline necessarily like Marvel kind of has with the Infinity Stones, right? Where there's obviously this central thing and then you have all these other stories being told. If I were to pick one though, I'd say the Deathwatch narrative campaigns are the ones you'd want to watch. So Augustine Station, followed by Space Hulk Deathwatch, followed by Deathwatch Apophis, and then Deathwatch Tyrus. We're about to do season 5 of Deathwatch. I'd say that's becoming our main speared storyline, and because they usually refer to other stuff as well. You'll always miss out on something, some side story, but there's also a lot of characters and side stories that haven't been tied up yet, or might never be tied up. And so I'd say the Deathwatch ones are definitely going to continue. So that would be my recommendation, is to watch those. And they do actually have, right from Augustine Station, they do have story that's important, even though it's an older edition of the game. Not that that matters too much when you're watching Deathwatch, what edition you're watching. C. Markra. Hey Matt, imagine you're a teacher and you run a games club for a bunch of junior high students. So what is that, grade 7 and 8? Because we don't have junior high in Canada, but I think that would be grade 7 and 8. How would you create or run a narrative campaign with multiple kids, anywhere from 4 to 12 kids, over a day and a half? Example, Friday after school and all day Saturday. Asking for a friend. Sure you are, C. Markra. A narrative campaign. I would keep it kind of stupidly simple. I would look at what those kids play, assuming they do already play. If they don't already play, then I don't know why you're trying to run a narrative campaign for a day and a half, because you're going to spend all that time just teaching them how to play. But assuming they do play, I'd look at what armies they play, and I'd base it off of that. I wouldn't try to create a story and then fit their armies into it. I would look at their armies and make the story based on that. So if you have a lot of Space Marine players, for example, then have it be a Space Marine versus something campaign. If you have a lot of Orc players, then it would be an Orc campaign. If there's a lot of Xenos or a lot of Chaos, that's where I would start. And then I'd come up with something simple, a setting that is interesting, that would bring all the armies together, like a planet that, let's say that you have kids and there's Space Marines, Orcs, Tyranids, and Tau are your 4 armies that are represented. Or when I say Space Marines, or any Imperium. They can be like, it's an Imperium-held planet with a current Tyranid invasion, but the Orcs have decided to jump in as well. Like, these kind of two come in, but the Tau have this secret purpose. They want to get there for whatever reason. And so you tell a little 2-paragraph backstory, set up a few objectives for each of the teams. And if there's only like one Tau player, let them be kind of special in that they're their own team, and they don't have to necessarily win all their games. They have to complete special objectives. But I'd keep it simple though. I'd keep it simple. Come up with some major objectives for each of the teams. You could even like get a hand-drawn map, something simple, something on the chalkboard or whatever, and you can show, where the armies are fighting, and so whoever wins, you can advance those lines. Not that it has necessarily any in-game impact, but more just shows the progress of it. But I'd keep it really, really simple. In a day and a half, you're going to probably be playing about 3 or 4 rounds of games, and so the story has to be simple enough that it all comes together like that. That's how I'd approach it. That's how I'd start, and then depending on what the kids are, their level of expertise in playing the game, and what they like to do, I would base it off of that. Okay, there's one more question, but I'll come back to that before the end. It's by WB Freak 54, so I'll be answering your question. Don't worry. Let's pick another random question. Miso. Hello, MiniWarGaming Matt. How are you? I am a little tired, but other than that, I am good. How are you enjoying Dungeons & Dragons? I absolutely love it. It's probably my favorite thing ever. Game-wise, that is. Bunker update? Nope. Dave takes care of that. So, it is being worked on. As far as I know, we're on schedule to get in there by April, May, June. Somewhere in that ballpark. So we'll see what happens when we get there. We'll get there when we get there. Let's just put it that way. Woodrow Wimpy. Woodrow Wimpy? Woodrow, that's what I'm going to say. Matt, if the Sentinels of the Forge made a new office, would Chris be named the Master of the Bellows? Yes, I'll name him Master of the Bellows. If you don't get that inside joke, Bellow is his last name. Not much of an inside joke. I gotta be careful how quickly I click on pick next, because otherwise it like mashes it on the end of the last question and I can lose it. There we go. Mr. Vort. What? See what I mean? Primaris Marines, do you play board games? If yes, what games do you enjoy? Yes, absolutely into board games. Being a father of 4 kids, I don't get into as much gaming outside of work as I used to. Both my wife and I are big board game, role-playing game fanatics. She's not as into miniature wargaming, but I think she might be if she actually had time to do that. But having 4 kids that are all rather young doesn't give you much time. But yeah, we played a lot of board games, or have over the years played a lot of board games. I'd say our favorite ones, and I can base this off of the longevity of how long we played them. Would be Race for the Galaxy, which is more a card game than a board game, but I figure when people talk about board games, they're kind of lumping in all of the complex card games as well. Dominion was a great one. Settlers of Catan, of course, is a classic geek board game, probably one of the first ones that kind of set me off in playing geek board games and card games. We got a ton at home. I'm just trying, the ones that we really always come back to. I think Race for the Galaxy is probably our favorite, just because we always seem to come back to that one and play it more. But we've played a lot of different board games. So yeah, I love it. I think if I wasn't the owner of MiniWarGaming or an employee of MiniWarGaming, I wouldn't be into miniature wargaming. I don't think I'd have the time for it. And so I'd satiate my geek nerd lusts after both role-playing games and board games. That's where I'd have to go. I'd always kind of look longingly through the window at the miniature wargamers and want to play those bigger games. But if I had to choose only one, I'd probably choose, well, choosing only one would be hard, because between role-playing games and board games is hard. Because I love role-playing games more than board games, but board games are easier to kind of just sit down and play with a group, so I wouldn't want to like just choose one. Thankfully, I don't have to choose one over the other. But if I was like kind of to group it, role-playing games and board games and miniature war games, it would be role-playing games and board games over miniature war games. Not because I don't like miniature war games, but just when you look at the time factor. And also, I don't like painting the miniatures, which is a big part of this hobby. Thankfully, I get this wonderful best of both worlds where I get all my miniatures painted for me, and I get to just have the fun of collecting and playing with them and doing narrative campaigns and playing in studios with tons of terrain. Like, it's a dream job, really. So it allows me to really enjoy this hobby. So we've got some more subs. Just want to acknowledge. We got Woof. Just subscribed with Twitch Prime. Thank you, Woof. Or unless you're a Whoop. You might be woof, huh, thinking you're woof. And is that it? Just the one? There we go. Woof. Thank you, woof. You are awesome. Let's get to another question. Kill Batson. Wrath and Glory! That's not a question. I would like a question. But the answer to your question is, heck yeah. Dr. Bloody, what's your wish list for Codex Genes to the Cult? Well, I think the stuff we've seen so far looks pretty darn awesome. My wish list, I'm a simple kind of guy. Give me more models to play with, and I'll be happy. And it looks like that's what they're doing. Like, I get this question, I've gotten this question over the years, and I've attempted to answer it, and I've always come short because I think it's because I don't care as much. And what I mean by that is people ask me, what rules do you hope it'll incorporate? And since I don't play, saying I don't play competitively is not the right word because I'm a competitive person. Since I don't play like tournament-based things or super match-placed things, I'm not as bothered when a unit is underpowered compared to something else. I'm not as bothered by lack of internal balance within a codex. I still will play with that stuff on occasion just because I like the variety. I'd prefer, of course, that everything is perfectly balanced, but I also know that that is very, very difficult to do. So my wish list for Codex Genes to the Cult is to get a bunch of new, shiny, awesome-looking models, and it looks like that's what they're doing based on what they've released so far. So I think my wish list is going to come true, especially with the way they look. Have you seen those models? Like, holy cow, just when you think Games Workshop can't make better models, they figure out a way to do it. Like, look at Blackstone Fortress. Just, oh my goodness. Like, where did that come from? It even feels like a different aesthetic. It's like, it's 40K while not being 40K. The Genes to the Cult stuff they showed so far, too. It is 40K, but it looks like you could use that in almost any sci-fi or even some modern games as well with the bikes that they're riding. So, awesome looking stuff. I'm very excited for that. Squealy Pigs, are you going to do a season 2 of Death Watch? As I thought the first season was amazingly awesome sauce. Well, thank you, Squealy Pigs. I thought it was pretty good too. I enjoyed it. I don't know if we're going to do a specific season 2 of Death Watch. I think what you're going to see instead is individual members of the Death Watch showing up in other narrative campaigns. We've already seen that a little bit, but with Big Mech Snegabog. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard for me to say what I'm going to do more than just a few weeks out because it comes down to so many things. What I feel like doing, what's currently popular, what works. Like I could tell you I want to do, while I'm making Yogg-Vir and Tor Season 1, I could be like, yeah, I definitely want to do Yogg-Vir and Tor Season 2. But if it doesn't do well, then that kind of makes me put it on hold longer while I do stuff that works because, you know, we're a business and so we have to focus on those things. It's kind of like TV shows that get canceled after the first season, even though the first season clearly didn't finish the story. And the writers would love to continue it, and a lot of the fans would love to see it. But if there's just not enough support for it, then what are you going to do, right? What are you going to do? Fire Drake 18, what of Blackstone Fortress? I don't know, it's a mystery. What of Blackstone Fortress? If you're asking if we're going to continue playing it, I'd love to. We had so much playing it. It was so much fun playing it that first time. But our schedule is packed. It's been really hard to manage everything. So I don't know how to answer that because I'd love to actually do a full playthrough of it live on top of that. A little more streamlined than the first time we did it, you know, knowing the rules more and not spending the first 2 hours figuring out the rules. But so that the videos could be shorter. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Catfish666, what are your pros and cons for Age of Sigmar? That's an interesting question because pros and cons for any game, it's hard because when you're comparing one game to another game, they're not always comparable. One thing I've learned over the years is I remember early on, I would approach new games having my own idea of what they should do before I even know what they should do. And so then when I get to them, I get disappointed, and I try to then change them to be more like what I want them to be. I remember like the first time we played MechWarrior, the role-playing game, and I was disappointed by a certain aspect of how it worked. I didn't like how killy it was. I didn't like, you know, how easily you could die in it. I didn't like how hard it was to get the better weapons. And so I was like starting off my I was just a teenager at the time. I was starting off with us with all, a squad of elite soldiers, all with the best equipment right off the bat. But now that I look back, I'm like, no, that's not what the game is meant to be. It's meant to be killy, like playing Dark Heresy. Imagine playing Dark Heresy, but trying to make it more combat heavy. Like, it's just, that game is not designed to be that. It's designed to be an investigation game. And so when you compare them, like somebody saying, which is better, Dark Heresy or Dungeons and Dragons? It's like, well, yes, they're both role-playing games, but they don't try to do the same thing. They're in different universes. One is science fiction, one is fantasy. One is heavily focused on, well, I'd say D&D has a lot more rules for all the combat-oriented kind of stuff, whereas Dark Heresy is more focused on a much broader area of the interaction with the world kind of stuff. Like D&D, don't get me wrong, you can spend 90% of the time not in combat. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say that if you wanted to do a Sherlock Holmes game, D&D would allow you to do that, but it's not really fully equipped for it, whereas Dark Heresy is. And so, it's hard to compare. I can say I enjoy D&D more than Dark Heresy, but that's just because I enjoy that type of game more, where somebody else would enjoy Dark Heresy. So Age of Sigmar, pros and cons, it's the same thing. It's like, compared to what? Am I comparing it to Warhammer 40K? Am I comparing it to other fantasy games? What am I comparing it to? So if I'm just doing a general pros and cons of Age of Sigmar, then the pros would be streamlined rules, pretty straightforward rules that have enough tactical depth to make them interesting. You got gorgeous miniatures from a company that's constantly updating them. And I think a really interesting background and lore and setting, especially now that they've had time to develop it more. Cons? That depends. Do you not like fantasy? You'd rather play science fiction? Well, then that's a con. Do you not like high fantasy? You want low fantasy? Well, that would be a con. Do you want a super balanced, highly tactical game? It's not Age of Sigmar. That's a con. Do you want all the armies to be updated at the same time all the time? Well, that's not going to be any Games Workshop game, so that's a con. Like, see that? You can see what I mean. It has to be compared to something, and it depends on what you like and don't like. Next question. Let me just check something really quick. Yeah, I think we're good. All right, next question. Soul Ledger, any thoughts about Tao's the 8 coming back as a huge 1,000-point character blob? Not really. I've heard about it, but honestly couldn't care less. If I were a Tao player, I'd be like, cool, I'll play that one game, and then that'll be it. I don't know anything about its power level, how good it is, how bad it is, how broken it is, how not broken it is. So unfortunately, don't really have a good answer for you there. British 1984, will you carry over some sets from the current studios to the bunker as well, potentially in the guest rooms? Some of what you already have is also very nice. Not really. It's not really carry-overable. Most of it is, except for the forge, is a lot of styrofoam, a lot of it's kind of worn out, or not really stuff that you'd want to carry over. Like a lot of the stuff in the forge is all rusted metal, not stuff we want to have in a guest room. That would just be liability issues galore. Like that stuff, like when you're looking around, a lot of that stuff is real metal and it's really rusty. And so, we have it inset and off to the side and people stay away from it. But yeah. So, and then everything else is just kind of wood or styrofoam. So I don't think we're going to really be able to be bringing hardly anything over, to be honest. Next question. Regulator 795, what is this bunker you speak of? I guess we take it for granted that everybody knows what we're talking about. The MiniWarGaming bunker is the new building that we're going to be moving into sometime next year. Thanks to Hunter, one of our friends and viewers. And was a big supporter of Dave doing his fantasy movies. We've partnered with him basically to create the ultimate MiniWarGaming bunker. Well, ultimate is not the right word, because the ultimate would be 1,000 times bigger. The ultimate. But it's awesome. Whereas right now we're roughly in about 4,000 square feet of space. That one's about 11,000 square feet. It's going to have more studios. Like the stuff that you see right here, actually. This is actually the studio walls for the new studios. They're being built in panels, and then they'll be installed when all the framing is done. So we're just using them temporarily here. It'll also have guest rooms. It'll actually have a hotel that can hold roughly 10 to 15 people, I think, is what we're going to end up being able to hold in separate rooms. Not everybody with their own rooms, like there's some bunk bed rooms and things like that, so you can stay here. It's going to have a storefront, not run by us. We're having a local store run it, just because we're not interested in getting our hands dirty with running a store, like a brick and mortar store. It's going to have about a 2,000 square foot gaming area that will be holding events all the time. So essentially, we're going to be running little mini conventions all the time throughout the year, where you can come in and do all sorts of different activities here, stay at the bunker, be in our videos, some of them not even in our videos, some are just events that are running here. And our offices will all move there as well, so we'll have brand new offices there. So it's currently being renovated right now. So that is the new MiniWarGaming bunker. Raloon, who is your favorite guest in today, and why is it Alex? Alex, and because he said so. That's what I'm told, at least. Dr. Bloody, so is our favorite Deathwatch Dreadnought going to show up in the D&D campaign? Theo? Why would Theo show up in a Dungeons & Dragons campaign when he is... Oh, wait, no, I can't tell you. Is it too soon to give spoilers as to the ultimate end of Theo? Or even just saying that, I guess, was a spoiler. I don't know if Theo would show up in a Dungeons & Dragons. Theo is a Deathwatch Dreadnought, Contemptor Dreadnought. No, Contemptor, was he Dread? Whatever, he's a Dreadnought in our Dungeons & Dragons campaign. So, if in case you're wondering what we're talking about here. And apparently he was a fan favorite, only because of the way I treated him. Let's just face it. Hacks Slayer, what's your guys' favorite tabletop game based on Warhammer? So I'm assuming you mean not Warhammer 40k or Warhammer Fantasy or Age of Sigmar. So you mean, like, even in brackets, you put Blackstone Fortress, Gorka Morka, Kill Team, etc. I think, that's hard. Blackstone Fortress was really cool, but I only played it once, so it's hard to say longevity-wise if I would enjoy it after a bunch of games, or if I'd find it very samey and very repetitive. Gorka Morka, we did an entire week of playing it, and I loved it. Kill Team was fun, for including things like Battlefleet Gothic, Necromunda, Armageddon, and then all the other games. Okay, I'll answer it this way. What is the one I had the most fun with? I'd have to say Gorka Morka. I just enjoyed it a lot. Zergalurgadur came Matt. Oh wait, no, I already answered that one. It just did the stupid thing where it didn't delete it. But I gotta wait a few seconds before I click the next one, otherwise. All right. Let's see if we can find that one. Is there a way to search the chat? Because I just got a comment that was so long that it...
The best way to do is timestamps.
What do you mean?
There should be a timestamp on the queue. And then
Yes.
And then if you bring it up in the chat, you'll be able to find it that way.
Well, it's gone now that I clicked pick it. Took it out of it.
Oh.
It's Wrath of Bambi asked a question. You know what? I think there's enough of the question in there, because I can probably extrapolate what the rest of it is. Wrath of Bambi. Hi, Matt. With the release of Wrath and Rapture this month, it's a good time to ask, what's your opinion on the representation of Slaanesh in miniature form? I expect that you do not... ... I'm guessing you're thinking, I expect that you do not like it. And you're right, I don't like it. And this can open up a big can of worms.
217.
217?
Timestamp.
You know what? Now that I've popped up the Twitch chat, it doesn't give me timestamps.
If you go into the settings.
Oh, I can turn on timestamps in the settings?
Yeah.
Ooh, timestamps, look at that. All right, 217. Let's read the rest of your comment. If you'll stop going down. Oh, geez, there's a lot of chat. Oh, and it keeps doing that stupid thing of, you know what, I gotta do this way, because it keeps popping me back down. But it won't do that if I scroll like this. Here we are. I expect that you do not like them much since they are quite sexual while you are trying to keep things PG on the channel. I am disappointed since the sexual aspect is a crude restriction of the aspects of She Who Thirst, but excess is hard to represent without stepping into other gods' territories. But the new Herald seems more inspired. Yeah, warning, trigger warning here. Some people are going to not like what I'm about to say. And I can already tell you all the reasons why you're not going to like what I'm going to say. I think for a game like Warhammer 40K, we just don't need the sexual representation like Slaanesh has. In fact, I don't like it in any of the games. And immediately people are like, oh, you like violence, but you don't like sexuality. And it's just different. And if you can't see why it's different, then you're just going to have to agree to disagree or disagree to disagree, whatever. And if I to give you the short version, I won't even get into all of that. I'm disappointed. The model where it's like that harp is such a cool model, but so disturbing. And I know people will say, well, Warhammer 40K is grim dark, but let's face it. It's grim dark sometimes, and it's kind of more comical sci-fi other times, and more like it's so hard because when you're playing the miniature game on the table, you don't feel like you're in this super grimdark setting. You read some of the novels, and you'll get like authors like Dan Abnett who will both show you the grimdarkness of it, but also show you the more just typical sci-fi aspect of it. You'll read the whole Beast Arises series, and while it's a very dystopian future, it's not quite as. It's just different. There's different feelings you can do with it. You can with 40K, it's one of those games, one of those settings where you can easily go deep in horrible things. And just like real life, to be honest, just like real life. Like if I was making a World War II game, I could just keep it, more abstract. It's just tanks and people fighting each other. Or you can really get into the nitty-gritty stuff of the horrible things that happened to people, besides people killing other people, obviously. Like all the concentration camps and all that. And so it's kind of like what you choose to how far down in that rabbit hole you choose to go into. And 40K allows you to do both just skim the surface, play with the goofy looking orcs, or you can play with grim dark orcs who are just brutal and killing everybody. Or you can kind of go both ways with it. And you'll notice that our narrative campaigns typically kind of skim that surface of comical and serious, because I find that's where it's most enjoyable and also reaches most of your audiences. And so Slaanesh, the problem is Warhammer was created back in the 80s. And miniature wargaming back then was for adults. It wasn't for kids. And on top of that, there's a lot of these 80s themes that still, unfortunately, I almost wish they could just, and they can't do this, I wish they could almost just throw out everything for Warhammer 40K and start from scratch. Because they're so held back because of what they've built over the years. I look at the Tyranids, for example, nothing to do with sexuality or violence. I just look at the way they look, and you can tell that as they make new Tyranid models, they do it less 80s style, but they're still kind of held on to parts of that style because, hey, that's kind of how it started. And so this is what a Tyranid looks like, or the Space Marines, or all these different things. That there's always this mix. That's why like when you look in Age of Sigmar and there's a brand new army that comes out, it allows them to really show what they can do when they're not held back by what something looked like before. Like you look at the Idonet Deepkin, for example, and that's a good example of what they can do when they kind of just say, screw it, we're starting from scratch. Or even like the Stormcast Eternals, as much as they're just Space Marines in Age of Sigmar, they got to reinvent them, and so that allowed them to come up with a new aesthetic and make it more uniform across. So I feel that the Gods of Chaos are a very 80s thing. And on top of that, forget whether it's appropriate or not. You're right, it is hard to really say, where does the line drawn between the gods? Khorne is all about violence and bloodshed to the excess. Well, Slaanesh is all about excess, so that Slaanesh would be all about violence taken to the extreme as well. You could picture somebody like super overweight, having eaten tons and tons and tons of food, gluttony, right? That's more Slaanesh. But as soon as you try to do a miniature that looks like that'll look more like a Nurgle miniature, because a Nurgle, for some reason, as soon as you're diseased, you just plump up. That's a Nurgle thing, because they had to find some sort of aesthetic, right? all these different things. And so there's these lines I had to draw. So the easiest thing to show anything about excess was sexuality, even though it's only one of the things that it really is. Like you look at like Noise Marines, they're more about like, hey, we're in a heavy metal rock band. So, they could have gone more, I don't know if that's the appropriate route. I'm just not a big fan of the Slaanesh because, when I'm trying to keep things PG, then that's obviously a difficult area to tread in. So it's, and I get that people are going to disagree with me. And yeah, somebody just said also drugs, like all that kind of stuff, yeah. And that's the hard thing with chaos. It's like, it can get, and it's not even the only thing that can get dark. Like so many things can get dark in real life and in Warhammer 40K. But chaos is all about, and that's actually like Nurgle and Tzeentch the most, because Nurgle is more joyous in his despair, and it's more just about diseasing people and all that kind of stuff, which is obviously bad, but it's just a different intent. And Tzeentch is all about schemes and manipulating and all that stuff, which is interesting. And then you get Khorne and Slaanesh, where it's like Khorne is just straightforward violence, which is, it can get a little. I remember trying to read my very first Age of Sigmar book. I don't remember which one it was, but it was just too descriptive of the guy having just killed another Khorne lord. He's a Khorne lord too, and he's like peeling the skin from the skull and chewing on it raw while thinking about his future. Like it was like, ugh, come on, like that's going too far for me. I just don't like that. I don't like that level of darkness, and some people do, of course, and that's why you're welcome to disagree with how I feel. But yeah. So let's just put it this way: the Chaos Gods could have been way more interesting. You look in the Age of Sigmar universe, and you still have the Chaos Gods, but you have all these other gods too, and they're not all black and white, good and evil. They're more like they each have their own goals and their own drives and all of that. And that system is your typical kind of fantasy system, but yeah, I kind of like it more. It gives more variety to what we're looking at. We got Joe Soap 04132 who just subscribed. Thank you, Joe Soap 04132. And all the way from Scottyland, he said. Awesome. Thank you so much. You are awesome. But that's what I'll say about the whole Slaanesh thing. And it's just, to me, it's disappointing. I thought maybe with imprisoning Slaanesh, they were like setting it up for a reboot. But it looks like they're just going to dial it up a bit more, which is very disappointing to me. Nucleus. Hey Matt, have you thought about doing these live streams with two hosts to bounce ideas and questions off each other? That's actually always been a question for the Sit and Talks. Should we do them with two people? The thing is, because we want to do them on a weekly basis, and since we're trying to keep up with another schedule, it's hard to guarantee that two people will be available. Like today, for example, there wouldn't be a second person available. Like Colin obviously is here, but if you're looking at just the main content producers who are making battle reports, they are all filming right now. Like all 4 studios are being filmed in right now. And we've got 6 guests here today. So we wouldn't have been able to do that. Every Thursday there would be like these 2 people locked up in the middle of the week. So we are looking at starting some talk shows and other things like that, but we're just a small company. It's so funny because there's, in business, small companies try to appear big and big companies try to appear small. And that's, a big company's like, yes, we're all about customer service. Like a bull. You're not all, you can pretend you're all about customer service. You can try to train your minimum wage customer service employees who couldn't care less about your company that we're all about customer service. But no, you're a big company. You can't possibly know each of your customers. Whereas like a small company is like, oh, we're big. You can trust us to be able to get the job done. So we're still small. And so we constantly struggle with trying to manage our manpower and get the number of shows done and try new things like live streaming and new shows. There is an infinite number of things we could be doing. If you gave me 10 times the amount of resources, I can almost guarantee you that I would still tap them out and come up wanting for more stuff that I want to do. I just don't think there's any end to it. And so that's tough, but we're still small. That's why we appreciate every subscriber, every Vault member who signs up. It's a big deal to us because it does make a big difference. Like if you're a new Netflix subscriber, you're 1 in millions. But when you're a Vault member, you're 1 in thousands. Let's just put it that way. And so it makes a huge difference. Good question, though. And it's not that it's a bad idea. Obviously, if we had 2 people here, I would say it'd be more interesting.
I'm hoping to be the voice off camera to do that.
Yeah. Colin's trying to figure out all the audio stuff so he can get a second mic working for him, so you can hear that voice off in the distance in the background. Kind of like when you have a talk show host, and there's usually that secondary guy over in the corner with the band. That's Colin. That's Colin. We'll even get him some instruments. What instruments do you play, Colin?
Baritone.
The baritone. That's a saxophone, right?
It's a miniature tuba.
Oh, it's a miniature tuba. Why did I think it was a saxophone?
There's a baritone saxophone.
Okay, don't talk too much. People get annoyed. You don't have a mic on. Anyways, so you play tuba. All right, we'll get him in the background here. Whoop, 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 whoop. Every time a bad song is, or a bad joke is told, like the one I just did. Oliver Washer. Any tips for Dark Eldar / Drukhari? Nope. Next question. But in all seriousness, I don't play Dark Eldar. Barely ever play against them. WB Freak, when will Dave be doing the sit and talk? Dave will not be doing the sit and talk. Dave does the Shrine of Chaos every week, so that's kind of his sit and talk. The sit and talk used to be just me, and then Dave started the Shrine of Chaos as his thing, and it was actually, the Shrine of Chaos was always live. That was always a thing about it. And so that's his thing, and so there's no reason to rotate him in with the sit and talk when you can join him on the Shrine of Chaos every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Squealy Pigs, what has been your favorite narrative campaign since the start of MiniWarGaming? And have to say, you are all awesome, and please keep it up, and hope you have a great Christmas. Thank you, Squealy Pigs. I hope you have a great Christmas too. My favorite narrative campaign is usually the one I'm currently doing, because usually by the end of a narrative campaign, I'm tired of it and want to do the next one, because I've got that kind of problem that it's hard for me to do something long term. So I'm loving Yagvir and Tor right now. Sorry to say we're going to have like a 2 or 3 week break from it because our schedule's been so hectic that I haven't been able to keep up with it. And with Christmas coming up, that's kind of just going to make it worse. But Yagvir and Tor has been so much fun. The Death Watch ones are up there. I like the smaller scale ones. It just allows me to do more character development and more story development. And I think they're more interesting. Not to say that we won't do the other ones as well. I enjoy the smaller scale ones more. We've got another sub. A sub. We got another sub. Hoorah. Mega Zephyr. Thank you, Mega Zephyr, for subscribing via Twitch Prime. Just a little public service announcement. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you can link it with Twitch to get a free Twitch Prime account. If you have a Twitch Prime account, you have 1 free subscription every month that you can give away. However, it does not auto-renew. And so when you subscribe through Twitch Prime, then you've got to actually manually do it again the following month. Whereas if you subscribe just the normal method, it does auto-renew. Not that one's better than the other, because we make the same amount of money from either of them. So thank you very much for that support. It really does make a big difference. Okay. Super Wasp King, how difficult can it be to keep your content PG? It's not too hard. It's a combination of picking the right games and cleaning up the potty mouths of all of our content producers. If you hear them outside of the games, there's, yeah. But they all seem to do a really good job. In fact, I think I'm the one that has the hardest time. I said weapon in that last Iron Jaws versus Sylvaneth game. There may have been times where a swear word has slipped out in game, or more importantly, when I turn off the camera. But in that case, I said best weapon guy. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's fine. But if you do know what I'm talking about, I said best weapon guy, not best. Well, you can probably figure it out based on what that sounds like. But yeah, it's, you know what, keeping content PG, I can see that people appreciate when content is not kept PG. When people are just able to swear, drink, talk about whatever they want to. I don't know, without opening too big a can of worms, just because of what I believe and my morals and ethics. Not because I don't think I'm better than you, because you might not believe this, but that's what I believe, is that those things are inappropriate and vulgar and not really, they're just not good. And so and Dave agrees. We both have the same religious background. We're both members of the same church. And so we've always striven to keep it that way. And I want kids to be able to watch. Not that kids will be too interested. My son is. My 9-year-old, or almost 9-year-old son is watching our videos now. But I want an 11-year-old or 12-year-old to watch. I want you to be able to watch, and your parents can hear it in the background, and they're not like, what on earth are you watching? I just remember growing up and the amount of crap that was in media, and the songs, and the whether they were full of swear words or just the connotations were just not good. And we just try to keep it clean. And I know that some people are like, I just love watching where they don't keep it clean. And I can appreciate that. I can see why you would enjoy that. But that's just not us. We definitely try to keep it PG. And so that's it. Now it's 3 o'clock. I'm going to keep going because I feel like it. But I do want to get this last question. Now, trigger alert, he does mention religion in this, but he also talks about other stuff too. So this is WB Freak 54. It says, when Dave shows off the bunker, he never talks about the new offices for you guys, so what will those be like? Nothing too crazy. There will be new offices. I'll actually have an office that I can close the door. Right now my office is a hallway, and that can be distracting. So it'll be nice to be able to have a place where I can close the door, write, nap, without getting interrupted. But yeah. And second, I served in the military with a few Mormons, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, if you're not sure what that is. And they have always told me that it has been a bit of an issue with the church due to what happens in wars. That's an interesting thing to say, because the church doesn't have issues with the military. Like, obviously, anybody should have issues with war. Like, it's bad, right? Can we all agree on that? Yeah, everybody, please? War is bad. Killing other people is bad, but going to war in defense of your country, that's is a necessity of life, unfortunately, because there's others who will push it. And I don't want to get into like whether we should be in the different countries that we're currently in and all that kind of stuff. I don't care. War is not good, but that doesn't mean that people in the military are bad. So if that's true, how does your faith feel about this wargaming? Well, gaming is different than actually killing people. So it's you can kind of see what I try to do. I try to not get into the excessive violence and sexuality and all this other stuff portrayed in any of my entertainment. But I don't think there's anything wrong with the games that we play, as long as we don't take it to the extreme. So, and I know some people will disagree with that, or they'll think that if I believe in one thing, then I must have to do this other thing. And I've had every discussion imaginable in Sit and Talks. In fact, when my old Sit and Talks, when it was just me, the question came up a lot, and so there was a lot of religious discussions in the Sit and Talk. So much so that I actually kept it on a separate channel because people would get really, really upset when I would talk about it so much. But that was because people were asking me questions, not just because I brought it up. So, anyways, so yeah, it's just we have to find that balance. You have to find the balance where you're not going into the extremes of it. Like when I roll dice and a miniature is taken off the table, I don't picture that the bolt round from that bolt gun, which is actually a little mini grenade, exploding and turning into pink mist, like as it's described in a lot of the novels. I just don't. It's just you remove the miniature. It's a game. It's like when you play a game of chess. If we want to go to the extreme. Your pawn takes the queen. You don't picture the pawn pulling out a sword and going, off with their head, and then all the blood going, and the guts being pulled out, and cannibalism. I don't know. You just move the piece, and you've taken the queen, and that's a big deal because you're playing chess. So that's like to the extreme, and obviously this brings it up less abstract. But it's always this thing you have to kind of constantly evaluate. Is this game that I'm playing too violent? Computer games, board games, miniature war games, and that's something I always have to kind of look at and make sure that I'm okay with. Finally, if I'm playing with Ultramarine only characters, but my Space Marines are not blue, but I play them as Ultramarines. What's the question? Do you see an issue playing with them together? No? Others might grumble and complain that your Space Marines who you're playing as Ultramarines are actually green. I'm looking at you, a bunch of commenters. But no, what the problem is if, I don't know, actually, what is the problem? I know some people don't like it when you play a successor chapter, like if I'm playing the Nova Marines and they're an Ultramarine successor chapter, but Gilliman joins in. But technically they don't have the same chapter tactic keyword. This is Nova Marines and his is Ultramarines. It's like, oh, whatever. They're all Ultramarines. That's fine. So I don't have an issue with that. But once again, I'm more of a casual narrative player, so I could appreciate that. Whereas others who are more like match play, they might have an issue with that. But as long as you're playing with the Ultramarines chapter tactic and you're not like being like, this is Gilliman but he's a salamander now. Like that's a problem. You don't want to do that. Okay. Yeah, okay. I'm just going to keep answering questions. It's a little after 3 o'clock. You got a problem with that, Colin? Didn't think so. He actually said no. Lidgate. Do you plan to have staff at the bunker? Example, cafeteria or room service, even if it's only for turning down beds and cleaning between guests. There's definitely going to be staff. I don't know if staff's the right word. There's still a lot of things we have to explore there. I'm wondering if we're going to be like using a third-party service, for example. Definitely be cleaning between guests. I don't know a ton about hospitality, but I know if I'm going to sleep in a bed that I'm renting, I sure hope it's clean sheets and the room's been cleaned. There's not going to be a cafeteria. There's not going to be on-site food, but we are going to have food services catered in, so you'll be able to order in food. But it won't be like you won't have all the services of a hotel. Let's just put it that way. It'll be more like a combo hotel and bed and breakfast. I don't know if that's even an appropriate one to look at, but yeah. So yeah. There won't be like this on-site a huge amount of staff to take care of everything. They'll be coming in to take care of things as is. It's just going to be a small number of people that can stay. So it's not this big hotel. You can't hire a bunch of full-time people to take care of 5 rooms. It just wouldn't. We'd have to charge a lot of money for the rooms to make that worth it. But to be honest, hospitality is a brand new thing for us. So we're going to kind of fumble our way through this for the first year or two. So yay for the first people who come in. You get the raw experience, raw MiniWarGaming bunker experience. Grimjaw, hey Grim, do you have a favorite race and or class to play in Dungeons & Dragons? I haven't been playing it long enough to choose one favorite race or class. I currently am playing a Halfling Bard in the campaign, Curse of Strahd campaign, where Luca is the DM, and I'm really enjoying that. But like Steve, I've already got a bunch of other ideas for characters I'd love to play. Steve has like 17 other characters. I think he's already even got them all Hero Forge printed and everything. So, I don't know. I currently want to play Sorcerer. I also want to currently play, Steve had this idea and then I stole it, a Bard who just narrates everything. I'm not that interested right now in okay, I can tell you the classes I'm not interested in. Right now, I would say Ranger. Druid is a tough one because if it's just like your typical Druid, no, but I might, if I could think of some weird, I like coming up with kind of quirky character concepts. But to be honest, I don't usually get to play as a character. I'm usually the GM. And so this campaign I'm playing with Luke as a GM is my first ever experience being a player in a persistent campaign. I've done a couple one-offs, but that's a little different. So this is my first experience ever. It's a Halfling Bard. That's the first thing. And it was hard to choose. I was going to be a Halfling Barbarian, and his name was going to be Darian, the Barbarian. And in the end, I just didn't do it. I just found it a little too boring, and so I wanted to be a Bard. So now he's Darian, the Bard, the Bardarian. There you go. He's not multi-classing. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really have one right now. And I don't think I ever would. I probably have ones that I don't care to play. Human Fighter, low on my list. It's like the more common something is, the more I don't like it. Not because I'm this hipster kind of guy who has to do things against the flow, but more because I want to try something that's different, which I guess that's what a hipster is, right, Colin? You would know.
Why would I know?
Zoo Pants would love to see us play a full playthrough of Blackstone Fortress. So would I. And I love the name Zoo Pants. Pray tell, what is that? like a lot of names are pretty awesome. Like this next one is DoD Spec Ops. Yeah, that Department of Defense Spec Ops. Oh, geez. Are they watching the stream now? What did we do? I swear, the wars we've been talking about are all pretend. They're all pretend. But yeah, like that one makes sense. But Zoo Pants. Matt, this is from the Spec Ops, the Department of Defense is watching us. Matt, have you guys ever thought of expanding to different markets for your business? Also, wrong form of asking questions. Sorry, noob here. What? Have you ever expanded to different markets for your business? You mean like how we're doing role-playing games now? Or do you mean like something completely different? That's very vague. Of course I want to expand to more markets, but I want to make sure that the markets are related to our market. Would that make it the same market? Does adding a new miniature war game to our roster make us expand to new markets? Would you classify that as a new market, or is it just another sub-market within the market of miniature wargaming? So yeah. Silver Draconian, have you ever played a multi-class character? I think I've answered that question. I'm playing my first character. I'm not interested in multi-classing. See, like, to me that'll be what I do once I run out of cool things to do with the regular classes. And by then, 6th edition will be out. Because honestly, heck no, 10th edition will be out. Because that's how often I'll get to play a character. Zalek Goat. Why don't you guys have a Death Korps of Krieg army? Seriously? We've got like 300,000 points of 40k out there, and you're like, why don't you have this one? It's like, what can we do more, man? Can we get everything? It's expensive, all right? We'll get there when we get there. Death Korps of Krieg, isn't that it's a Forge World army on top of that? So it's one of the more expensive ones. It's like, okay, man, this is what I mean. I could 10-tuple our resources and somebody would still find, oh, why don't you use more of this one unit in this one obscure army? Now, to be fair to Zalek Goat, Death Korps of Krieg is not an obscure army. It's a really cool army. But I don't know, because there's only a handful of us and we've got a very large collection of miniatures and yet still so much that we do not have. So that's why. Because I guess the real answer to that question is because I haven't wanted one. That's actually more the true answer. Rainbond, Matt, how many subscribers would you need to have your D&D players wear costumes? I don't know if it's a matter of how many subscribers. It's just a matter of whether they would wear costumes. But if we were to like say, we want this many, I'd say 1,000. We're at like 300 something. We got a ways to go. Because wearing costumes is pretty... it depends. Am I buying the costumes, or are they all just kind of come in their own costumes? If they want to come in their own costumes, then how many we have now is quite sufficient. But if I'm paying for the costumes, then we need a bit more. Andrew Octobeard. Hi, Matt. Do you think they will ever bring back the old Tomb Lords in Age of Sigmar in any way? So Tomb Kings, you mean? Their old Egyptian theme was so cool. Setzer was the coolest shriveled up guy ever. I doubt it. I highly doubt it. Because the Tomb Kings is kind of what they're trying to get away from in fantasy. That whole generic fantasy brand. High elves, wood elves, people, dwarves, orcs, goblins. Cool stuff and all, but done a million times over. And so now they're trying to do Idoneth Deepkin, Daughters of Cain, Stormcast Eternals. Even the Free Guild is different. And I know they just kind of renamed the dwarves to be Duradin, and they think that counts. But they do have like the Sky Dwarves. You got the Carriage on Overlords. That's pretty cool, I gotta admit. Whether you like them as the army or not, or find them ridiculously expensive money-wise to buy, they're still a pretty cool looking army. And the cool concept as well. So I think that's more what they're trying to do. So I don't think Tomb Kings, which is just space fantasy Necrons. I know Necrons are just space Tomb Kings, but you just, I just don't think so. I don't think they'll put an Egyptian themed thing inside of the Age of Sigmar realms. I just doubt it. Highly. Demon's Wrath 808. What's a strong Age of Sigmar army? I'm thinking of starting an army, and what is D&D all about? Whoa, geez, you just totally went on a new question there. What's a strong Age of Sigmar army? I'm thinking on starting an army. If you're looking for a strong Age of Sigmar army, Steve will tell you that it would be Idoneth Deepkin and the Seraphim. Seraphim? Yeah, Seraphim. My brain all of a sudden makes me think I'm saying that wrong. It is the Lizardmen are Seraphim, right? Wow. I knew that, but all of a sudden it just didn't sound right. Yeah, those are the ones that Steve would play, and he finds them really powerful. So, but really, if you want to be the most powerful and beloved of your friends, they will all bow down to your greatness. You play undead. Not just any undead. You play Nagash and big blobs of skeletons. That's it. You are now the master of Age of Sigmar. Doesn't matter what your dice say. and your friends will all adore you and love you. But if you want to be more interesting than that, then pick anything else. And what is D&D all about? Dungeons and Dragons? I don't know how to answer that question. How do you not know what Dungeons and Dragons is all about? It's a role-playing game. It's a fantasy role-playing game. Like, no offense. It's just been around for a little while. And some, you know what? We just look it up. Say, what is Dungeons and Dragons in Google? And I think that'll answer it better than my flabbergast answer right here. Oh, we just got a cheer from Rainbond. Everyone get to subbing. I want those costumes, 1,000 bits. So that's $10. Well, thank you, Rainbond. That is pretty awesome. Okay. Next question. That's 3:15. I don't know when I'm going to finish. A few more questions? Depends how I'm feeling. Dr. Bloody, will we be seeing a studio-wide Kill Team campaign similar to St. Augustine Wreckage campaign you did a while back? I had planned to do one. That's the one I was talking about before, that we then had to kind of shelve for a little bit. I'd love to, but I don't know. Joe Soap 04132, a Twitch subscriber. I'm sorry if the other ones were. I just remember his name because he just subscribed. Have you considered videos about competitive play and how to build lists, or even just how you would determine the current meta? We have. We've tried, but the problem is that's just not us. The people here just aren't regular tournament goers. We're stuck in some little city called Welland, and there's just not. It's just. I don't think that can be us. We maybe one day can branch out and hire a few people who are from somewhere else to do that. But to be honest, I'm gonna tell you something. I don't think that's what the majority, vast majority, of people who play miniature wargaming care about. I'm gonna say that. Now, some of you will strongly disagree with me because of anecdotal evidence of that's what you see everybody talking about in the comments and in the forums. But you have to remember, who's the type of person to leave comments and go on forums? And that's the type of people who are like so into the game, they're researching it, that they have opinions on it. The vast majority of people don't comment and don't go on forums. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with commenting. We love our commenters, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with going on forums. But if you go and hang out with a bunch of tournament players, and that's all you hang out with, then you're going to think, oh, everybody in the world cares about tournament stuff. And really, that's not the majority. The majority are just quiet, playing their game in their basement or at their local store, whatever they can get into. When they can get the games in, they're casual. The majority of players are casual. I'd say by a large margin, the majority of players are casual. And so anytime we've tried to get into it, the numbers have never really screamed to us that it's something that we should be really focusing on. And I'm not saying that that's not a good idea for another channel. You can fill in those niches and things. There are some other channels that do a great job covering competitive play, usually over certain armies. Like if it's a one-man channel, they'll be really good at 2 or 3 armies. And so if you're interested in this army, you go to this channel. If you're interested in this army, you go to this channel. And they're really good at that because they attend the tournaments, they keep up with the meta, because they focus just on that. But I don't have time to focus on that. I play too many games, do too many things to be caring about enough of the meta to keep up with it. So, and I think as much as you'll get a varying level of that amongst our employees, you tend to get still within that range of they're good at the game, but they don't necessarily know every last bit of the meta because they're too busy playing against a bunch of fun guests who are bringing in whatever they bring in. That's not to say we don't attend tournaments or anything, but just not the same as somebody. You need a lot more dedication in that area of a few people to be able to really have MiniWarGaming cover it with any amount of skill, I would say. Super Wasp King, do you guys accept gifts through services like the gift thing from the Games Workshop store? The gift thing from the Games Workshop store, I'm not sure what you're referring to there. But yeah, we do accept gifts. Oh shoot, I was going to show it off. BRB. This is right here. You can still hear me, I swear. Actually, I got a couple. It's funny because over the years, I've received things, and I've always wanted a way to kind of show them off. Is it weird that you can still hear me so clearly and I've moved? I don't know if that's weird. Like I've got miniatures from people, some painted, some not painted, some converted. And I want to show them off more. So if you want to send in stuff, I'm not going to ask you for gifts. But if you want to send in stuff for whatever reason, like as fan art or whatever, then I want to find ways to show it off. So the one I just got the other day was this. Oh, here we are. This one is from Michael Petzold in Germany. Hard Rockin' Amigo, apparently is his username. And he sent a little letter with it. And basically, I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see these, but he created these couple little wooden pieces of art, which is really cool. It says, the Emperor protects with the part of the Imperial Eagle. And he was inspired by all the work that Dave and the MiniWarGaming bunker crew have been working on that. And then he made a second one, which basically defaces it. It says, the false Emperor protects no one. So those are really awesome. So thank you very much, Michael Petzold, Hard Rockin' Amigo, for that. The other cool thing that I got, and I have to apologize to this guy because I haven't really talked to him yet because I've been like, when do I get a chance to do this? Somebody just gifted 10 subs. Hold on a second. Who just gifted? Thoru1F gifted 10 subs. Awesome. Talking about gifts. And they've gifted, they just gifted 10, so there's 10 people in chat. Oh, Chris Bello. Got one. Chris is now a subscriber. So awesome. Now Josh and Chris are subscribers. Thank you so much, Thoru1F. That is spectacularly fantastic. You are great. But yeah, he sent me this Guardsman generator, which is redonkulously complex program that he wrote. Yeah, Chris, I just heard Chris cheer. Chris just cheered. Yay! I'm a Twitch subscriber now. I love it. Obviously, he's on. Oh, and Colonel Xander to subscribe to the Twitch Prime too. Thank you, Colonel Xander. You guys are awesome. Like this is great. I love this. Not because we're making money from it, but because I'm seeing the support. You have to understand that the money that's coming from this is going into doing this. So I've analyzed how much it costs to live stream, and it's not cheap. And we're still not even breaking even yet with it. So every subscriber gets us a little closer to breaking even, so we can just continue to do this. I hope you understand that. This is not me like, oh, sweet, a couple more dollars I can take home with me today. I can buy fun stuff. It's just being able to keep this going is honestly what you're doing, and thank you so much. But anyways, it's this really complex code, and he actually has it available online that lets you generate an entire Imperial Guard army, but it gives them all backstories and names, like each individual guy. And I think it even lets you keep track. Yeah, not only does this facilitate an emergent narrative, hold on, players can use this program to track injuries, rivalries, medals, and more, which the program generates automatically based on the results of actual Warhammer battles. So you actually can go back and you can do it. Not only does this facilitate an emergent narrative, but it allows the analysis of many interesting statistics about life in the Imperial Guard. It's nuts! You're nuts! Justin Mansell, you're nuts. It's this whole like 30-page document that outlines the programming of it all, and then he included the letter that you can go on to GitHub. It's a long link. GitHub.com/JRMansell, MANSEL/guardsman-generator. And that's really cool. I don't know if I'll ever really use it. It is a little complex for what I need to be able to do. But Justin, you are awesome. He's from Alberta, Canada, so things like that. But yeah, I don't know. Interacting with you guys is such a treat for this kind of thing, and I think that's why I'm enjoying live streaming more, because it allows me to do more of that. I know I can. I try to reply to comments on YouTube videos. Usually, if you see MiniWarGaming replying to comments, that's me on YouTube. And I try to do that, especially on the videos that I'm in. But yeah. What's that?
Actual Q-bot got one of the subs as well.
Yeah, one of the bots. Yeah, I saw that. Because we have a couple bots on the Twitch chat just to help us stuff, and apparently one of them is now a subscriber. So I wish I could undo that, but I can't. Razor. Just subscribe to Twitch Prime. Thank you, Razor. 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 I don't know what. Should I make a song for? No, I'm not gonna make a song for everybody. That would get out of hand. But yeah, so yeah, thank you guys. You guys are great. I love this kind of stuff, and I think with the new bunker, because it'll be our building, that'll make me want to actually start hanging stuff like this in places, and almost want to create like one of the walls in the hallway will be showing off art, because I've actually got artwork hanging in my office from art that people have sent in, and they framed and sent it to me, and it's just so cool. It's just such neat stuff, and yeah. But let's answer a couple more. Rook Olis, what's your favorite 40K miniature? I don't know if I have one, but I would say all the new Blackstone Fortress miniatures are pretty darn rad. And that goes along with all the new Kill Team Rogue Trader miniatures. Those two kind of feel like they're from the same batch, to be honest. Like they were done by the same artist. I'm not sure if that's the case. It probably isn't. But they all have the same kind of feel, this aesthetic, which is like we don't belong to any specific army. We just look like we're NPCs in a role-playing game. I love that so much. It's just so cool. It's just so cool. Miso, when are you going to make Dave and Steve do his eating challenge with scorpions? He said he would do it once. I am not affiliated with the food challenges whatsoever. That way I don't have to tell Steve when he has to do them. And he can't use me to get out of them. I think they're great. But that is totally a Dave thing, so I will never make him do them. And you can't make Dave do anything anyways. You gotta like tell him the opposite, then he'll do it. Ayodaka. I don't know if it's been asked and covered in previous sit talks. If so, point me there, please. But I would love to hear the story behind MiniWarGaming. You know, I really should post that just as a video of its own, because I get that question a lot. Short version, just because, you know, we're already almost half an hour over. Dave and I grew up together playing role-playing games and tabletop games and board games. And I, previous to this business, was into internet marketing, which meant I helped people sell their products online. So I was into that. Dave didn't want to do his landscaping job anymore. We had just gotten to miniature wargaming. I wanted to explore the realm of e-commerce and online videos, which was a brand new thing back then. Not e-commerce as much. E-commerce wasn't brand new, but YouTube was a fledgling company. And so he would be the face, and I would be the tech guy, because I was a web designer, just like most guitar players are guitar players. They're not. And that's how it started. And then it's evolved into what it is now. A full-time gig, by the way. It took a few years, about 6 years for it to become profitable, and actually allow us to have regular paychecks, not skipping paychecks like we were always doing before. But it was worth the effort. And it still has its challenges now. But yeah. Okay, Alien Nerd, are there any plans for a Vigilus themed campaign series now that the campaign book has hit? Apologies if it has been asked, only just got in. No plans. We are planning on covering content from it. I don't know if we'll do like I don't typically take the campaigns that Games Workshop comes out with and do them, because I'm not a historical wargamer. I know it sounds funny, but you know, that campaign's been done. It's the story has been told. I don't want to just replay somebody else's story. I like to make my own. But we will be playing missions from it, stuff from it, the rules from it as well. I always like to make my own stuff. Gray Army Gaming. Any plans for theater improv classes for the D&D team for future role players? Or future role players? Any plans for theater improv classes? You mean like, do we plan on taking improv classes for the Dungeons & Dragons team? We don't have any plans to do that. I have heard that it is good to do. But no, we do not have any plans for that, or future role players. We're just getting started at D&D. We'll see where that goes. Teldonator, hi Matt, can you confirm or deny that Quirk left MiniWarGaming to play competitive Kerplunk? Where did you hear that? That was top secret information. I know, because did he win the competitive Kerplunk tournament thing that you guys did? Yeah, it's got quite the future in it. I can neither confirm or deny that. I'm sorry. It's just too sensitive. The Kerplunk. Why do people keep bringing up Kerplunk? Zergalurgader, kind of like my last one. If you could make a new Primaris Marine unit, what would it be? A new Space Marine unit? Sorry, Zergalurgader, your name betrays you. Zerg, meaning Tyranids, would be way more interesting. So, Primaris, I don't know. Ones that ride bikes. Little bikes. Like clown-sized bikes. So they're just like, like movement value of 2 or something. Okay. Somebody just did some bits, and then the whole thing just went down. So I got to find them. 326, 326, 326. Oh, cool. Somebody did one for the charity. Malinor just did 100 bits and put the hashtag charity. I think it's 20% of the bits go to charity then? Yeah. Is that how it works?
20 cents every 100 bits, so yeah.
Yeah. 20 out of 100 bits. So if you cheer a number of bits and then you put hashtag charity on the end, it goes towards Twitch's charity, which is Direct Relief. So 20% of that goes to that, and the rest goes to the channel that you're on.
You'll also unlock a charity badge.
Oh, you get a charity badge too. And they've raised $46,000 so far. Wow. It's actually pretty awesome. Cool. Okay. I don't know, 3:30. I got a few more minutes.
Maybe if you have a lot of questions, maybe close it.
I guess I can close it. But if I close it, then new people can't ask questions. I'm picking random every time. Colin's like, close it so people can ask more questions. I'm like, well, if they might ask and they might get lucky. I might pick theirs. So I'm not going to close it. Colin, you don't have a mic. Just stop talking. Tick off our viewers. Smuts Mutts. What do you have in plan in the future for more narrative games or role-playing sessions? We plan to do more narrative games and more role-playing sessions. Vague plans. Death Watch Season 5 is being filmed right now. I think it's going to start coming out next week, if Josh will do that. If it doesn't come out next week, it'll come out right after the holidays. We're currently doing Dungeons and Dragons. We plan on doing 40k Wrath and Glory. I don't think there's much more to talk about than that. I honestly don't even know what the next Age of Sigmar narrative campaign is yet, I'll be honest. I'm waffling on a few different ideas. But we'll see. Roscoe79, hi Matt, any chance of getting back into some new X-Wing content with version 2? I'd say no. We tried X-Wing, and it just didn't get a lot of viewers. And when I look at other channels, they have the same struggle as well. I think the reason for that is because of the type of players it attracts. Not that they're bad players or anything, but my guess would be that they are less fanatical about the hobby, on average, in general, than the average Warhammer player, because they don't have to paint their miniatures, I think is actually the main reason. They come pre-painted, the game is pretty simple, and so we'd have to focus more on tournament-heavy stuff, and like I already said, that's not going to be the majority of people playing the game that are interested in that, and the rest of them, I don't know. We tried it, and it just didn't work. And I think we tried it pretty well, too. There was times where we tried it better than others, but we still tried it. So, but that also, it's hard, because now X-Wing is a bit of an exception to this, but most games that people ask us to play are not nearly as popular as Warhammer, but X-Wing is pretty darn popular. I'm not sure how much compared to 40k. I know there's this one report that one company puts out, but that's, you know, anecdotal at best. But it is very popular. So, Forever Night, when are we going to get a dice punishment video? Or is there already one? What on earth is a dice punishment video? Is where I just destroy dice? What did they do to you? Jeez. What a violent crowd. I have no plans on making a dice punishment video. Now Snow, do you guys ever sell off old studio armies that you don't use anymore? No, because with rare exceptions, there is nothing that would fall under that classification of not being used anymore. Things get used less, but I wouldn't say there's anything that I would say would be on that list of we no longer use this. So, because I understand as being now doing role-playing games, doing narrative games, it's important for me to have a wide breadth of access to miniatures so I can keep things interesting. Shogun Ka William Ka, What do you like better using in battle reports? Plastic, resin, or metal models? Plastic, hands down. I don't like metal. As much as I like the weight of metal, if I could have the weight of metal but the durability of plastic, I'd go for that because I like the feel of that. But plastic models are just more resilient overall. Resin, well, technically resin is plastic, but you're probably talking more like you're talking about plastic injection molding when you're talking about plastic, and resin you're probably talking about more like the standard. Here's a mold, pour in the resin, spin it around, and there you go. Resin, I don't think it really fills either. Resin's fine, but it's more like plastic versus metal, and I'd say plastic because of the durability. I can dump a bunch of plastic miniatures into a bin, and they don't break up nearly as much. I already answered when we're doing a new Death Watch campaign. Silver Draconian, I hope this hasn't been asked yet. Which armies of Age of Sigmar and or 40? Which armies for Age of Sigmar and or 40k haven't you played with yet, and would you like to try, if any? 40k I've played at least once, probably almost everything. Yeah, I don't think I've played the Custodes, but I don't know if I care. But I've played it mostly because since I do the narrative campaigns, I'm usually playing the antagonist. That usually gets me picking up stuff I don't normally play with. So I'm not normally an Eldar or Dark Eldar player, but I've played it in narrative campaigns. I've played Orcs, Tyranids, Tau, Space Marines, Imperial Guard, Grey Knights, Chaos side of things. Yeah, I've played all of those as well, for the most part. Age of Sigmar, I haven't really played Beasts of Chaos or Seraphim or Idoneth Deepkin or... See, Age of Sigmar is a game I got into more recently, so I don't play the armies that everybody else plays. I try to stick to the armies that people don't play. Which one would I want to try? If I wasn't caring about what's going on camera or, you know, playing what would be good for videos, what army would interest me the most would... I really like Destruction. I've really been enjoying playing Destruction. I think Free People. Free People would be one that I'd really want to dabble in. We've got a bunch of Free People stuff being painted, so once that's done, I'll probably try that out. DoD Spec Ops. Sorry, Matt. Related market. New locations, not content. Oh. Yeah, that's been asked before. People have asked, would you ever franchise MiniWarGaming? They open up new locations. And the answer to that is, it doesn't really make sense to. Totally. Depends on the purpose. A lot of what people come in here for is the personalities. And so if you try to just branch off another location, you don't have those personalities there. So you got new personalities. And so you're kind of diluting your brand with people want to come in. So, but where it does make sense is if you wanted to, it's hard because as soon as you open up another location, you've really increased your expenses because here, all of our miniatures and terrain are in one place, which means everybody has access to everything. As soon as you go to a new location, you gotta have a new set of terrain, new sets of miniatures, and then those staff can only have access to each other and whatever guests are in that area. So I just don't know if we'll ever do that. I just don't know if I see a point in doing that. It's just not the same as other businesses that might care. Alan Haynes, 1427, what does your average Christmas day look like? Chaos. Got 4 kids. Thankfully now it's a little less chaos. We get up, we read from the Bible, usually the scripture story, or the Christmas story, then we open presents, we have some sort of breakfast together, then we usually in the afternoon head over to some family's place where the family gathers and we have a Christmas dinner. Pretty simple, but busy. And then other days of the week we might visit other members of the family depending on who we weren't able to get together with. Nothing too crazy. Telvinator, it's okay, I think we're starting to get to nonsense questions now. So Matt, how much Kerplunk do you play in an average week? About as much Kerplunk as I should play. Yeah, that is necessary. No less than what is necessary. Just what is necessary. Rain Bond, is opening Christmas presents the night before considered heresy? No. No. I don't think so. All right, let's just do one or two more, and I think I'm done. Do we have any more notifications? Oh, the Real Wavy Davy just subscribed with a tier 1 sub. Thank you, the Real Wavy Davy. I'm thinking we're winding down at this moment. I have a funny feeling that our viewership probably is too. Yeah, because we've almost been going for 2 hours, or an hour and 40 minutes right now. Let's see, one more. I'm gonna cherry pick. I'm gonna look through the questions and pick one more. Oh, geez. Is that timestamp going to do? That's really far back. It's a long one. Stormgrad Games. Hey, guys, what you most excited for in 2019? I would say the bunker is probably the biggest thing. I'm hoping that we're going to see a lot of change in 2019 because our website should be totally redone next year, hopefully with first or second quarter. Like totally redone. We're talking scrapped and done from scratch. It needs it. Badly. I'm not sure if you noticed. You probably have, or have just decided to stop using our website. Unfortunately, if you're a Vault member, you don't have much of a choice, but we're really wanting to improve the experience for everybody, including our Vault members, obviously. So I'm excited for that. That's kind of the project. I'm not the one doing it, but I'm working with the web designer for it. The bunker, obviously, is stressful to think about, but I'm excited for it. And yeah, that's the two big things for MiniWarGaming. And then one other person, Squealy Pigs, is asking, I know I might be shouted at this for this, but I keep seeing you wear this Team RIA shirt. What is it? Team RIA. It's rules as intended. If that right the way doesn't click in, for some people, because not everybody's going to understand all the acronyms, there's often a divide between certain types of players. Rules as written, rules as intended are the two often quoted things. If people are arguing over rules, they might argue over raw or rye. I don't know if they ever call it rye. I do hear raw. I don't ever think I hear rye, though, or ray. Rules as written is somebody saying you have to do it exactly the way it's written. Rules as intended, we'll look at that and be like, yes, but what did the writer intend? And I'm typically rules as intended when it's not clear. I should always clarify that. If the rules is written, it's clear, and often it is. 95% of the time it is. Then it is what it is. But sometimes things interact in a weird way that you're like, okay, so how does this work? And you can't come up with a solution. So you try to think, in my mind, what was their intention? So that's what rules as intended is. So we actually sell this shirt as well as the Team Raw on our Spreadshirt store, if you want to buy one. Okay, I think I am going to end here. Let's close up that chat. Not that it matters if I close. Oh, I just opened it and closed it. Sorry. That's going to pop up in chat. I swear it's closed. But I want to thank everybody. Yeah, just said closed, open, closed. But thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for all those who became subscribers during the show and the current subscribers and Vault members, of course. I just want to remind you that if you are a Silver Vault member, then you get anything that Twitch subscribers would get, just a little delayed, because we're not allowed to post it within the first 24 hours, and we wouldn't be able to anyways, because it takes time to process it and get it ready. But thank you so much for joining me. Stay tuned. Next week will be Josh. Make sure you leave, if you're a Vault member, leave questions when this is posted on our website on Saturday. Leave those questions for him for next week, and he'll be sure to answer those, as well as, and just a reminder that tomorrow's Painting Auxilium show, that's at 1 p.m. or 2 p.m.? It's 1 p.m. Eastern Time. The schedule, I've actually updated the description below to have this schedule on Twitch. And so you can see what our schedule is for everything. And don't forget to join us on Tuesdays. I'm going to self-promote here. 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Heroes of Herrenberg, our D&D campaign. I think it's the best thing I've ever done. Just saying. Thanks so much for watching. Happy wargaming.